what are those things that only Janelle can do? I can't hire anybody else for this because this is my superpower.
I'm looking for some existential proof that I am worth it.
And it has changed my life. It has changed my leadership. And it's created this deeper purpose.
Hello, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. We are Kurt and Kristen Luidhardt, your hosts and co-founders of the Prosper Group, an agency that's raised over $500 million and helped elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. And now, in addition to helping political candidates get elected, we're helping your business get elected by answering this question: what if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a lucrative and engaged audience that we call Liberty Spenders? Now, they are politically conservative or faith-driven consumers, and they're looking to buy from businesses and brands that align with their values.
We are very excited today to have Graham and Janelle on with Legacy Leader. They are executive coaches, but also successful entrepreneurs in their own right. Graham, though, is a reformed banker. Thank God he got into something cooler and newer. His 20-year career as a commercial and residential banker, he now has coached and mentored dozens of business professionals to find their purpose and pursue it with passion. Janelle founded MSNW, which is a facilities company, which was explained to me. They do janitorial, landscape maintenance, and all sorts of things for commercial facilities. She started in her garage and is a 9-time Inc. list member, which is pretty cool. I'm proud of my 1 time. But to have that 9 times shows a lot of ambition and growth, and over 500 employees, which we need to get into that because we have 30 and that feels like a lot. But they're also excited to be announcing the launch of their entrepreneur community called Impact through Legacy Leader, their company. Legacy Leader was born from their from Graham's connection to his mentor, famed speaker, trainer, and development guru, Zig Ziglar, which I definitely want to get into. Mm-hmm. And the two of them run that together. Their motto for their new Impact community coming out is faith, family, and impact. So thank you guys for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Look forward to having some time together.
Yeah. I'm pumped because we've not had another couple on, so we'll get into that. But this is going to be a real treat. We'll see how we navigate. We'll see how we'll navigate all of this together.
Yes, last time I was with Graham, I was given the stage and he grabbed the mic and heckled me from the crowd. So just be careful. It might be.
That's why we have the ladies with us today.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I first probably, I'm not sure when I first learned of it, but the idea of having a coach as a business owner has been around for a long time. I now see a lot of coaches, a lot of different people out there of all shapes and sizes. Some people are experts in certain part of the business journey, some are others. But I'm really excited to hear about what helped you decide to become coaches and what makes what you do so interesting and unique. So tell us a little bit about your coaching time and what you guys do.
You bet. Well, we decided to develop our own leadership development company because in growing my own business and starting to take hats off as the business grew and as it expanded, I found that I loved building business, but even more, I loved developing leaders. And so we began to do that. I began to do it in my own company. And then Graham, of course, is excited about leadership development, and you'll hear about his Zig Ziglar story. But one of the reasons why it happened for me and entrepreneurs started coming to me and then to us is because in growing my own company, I was having a lot of success. But as many entrepreneurs can relate to, I was getting pulled in a number of directions. My family was my first priority, but yet my business really needed my attention. And I had all these responsibilities. And I knew something needed to shift. And then I was on a plane flight to a conference one day and had this crazy blackout experience. Scared me. I'd been having headaches as well that I'd been ignoring. They're going to go away. And got me back from the conference. And I saw a doctor who ran a bunch of tests Fortunately, everything turned out okay. But he met with me and said, Janelle, you have this amazing business. You've done some great things, but you need to do drastic surgery on your schedule because this pace that you're keeping is just not sustainable. And that was a wake-up call to me. And it really made me think hard about my life and about my priorities, and that I didn't want to have just a great business. I wanted to have this really wonderful, abundant life. So with Graham's help, we created this framework, and to be able to create this holistic approach where you're not just successful in business, but you're successful in all areas of life. And then we had entrepreneurs noticing the difference and saying, wow, you've got this great business, but now you also have this new energy about you. What is that all about? And can you show me how to do it too? And that's how we started then actually coaching entrepreneurs, helping them to have a great business with a lot of business help and business strategy, but at the same time, not sacrificing those things that are most important.
Yeah, it's definitely relatable. Entrepreneurs, we take a lot on. Business owners take a lot on. We're ambitious. We think we can do it all. And even if you have a good team around you, there's nothing that beats the leadership and the load that you carry on your shoulders when you're the leader of an organization. So I'm certainly glad that you were okay. And it sounds like, God used that for good and let you go down
100%.
Another path and have a bit of a wake-up call.
Yes, 100%. It makes such a difference. And having a coach and I've had many myself, I have one now, makes a difference in your life because you can relate as entrepreneurs listening today. It's a little lonely at the top, and you can't just share all of the concerns about the business with your team, no matter how great your team is. So you're carrying that heavy mantle. And when you have an executive coach, you've got that trusted advisor that you can be vulnerable with, that you can really share what's going on and be able to think and strategize and make decisions faster.
Well, and I know for me, I am perhaps the most blind to my own, inadequacies or stuff, paths I'm going down. I need somebody who's not me and not my wife, right?
Yeah.
To say, hey, have you really thought about this thing you're doing? And who has that impartial, non-emotional viewpoint on what's going on in my life. So I have found that part valuable. But I like Kristen, I totally relate to this entrepreneurial journey you're talking about. When your family is the most important, but your business also feels like the most important, and your health feels like the most important. And you wake up in the morning and you think, I can't physically do everything that feels like must be done today.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like, well, if I don't do this, it's all going to explode. And so finding that freedom, I think, as an entrepreneur has to be a journey that so many folks of success are on. Is there a way you talk to them about approaching those challenges that you find some of your clients and customers find the most sort of life-changing, if you will?
I think that the first thing we do is look at their calendar and really just focus on what is it that is your most important priority and put that down there first. Stephen Covey did that. It was great with the big rocks down first and then smaller. So you put your family first, and then you put, quiet time, meditation, prayer, and then you put, your spouse, then your kids, then, put it in the priorities that you need. And then it's surprising how much you can actually get done if you put a focus time together like that. So it starts with the calendar. And then once you do that, from the calendar, you need to trust others, which is really hard for me. Janelle's way better than me. But to give and let others do things that you can do, and maybe you do it better, but if they can do it 80%, just go let them do it.
Oh yeah, that key to delegation. And, the calendar doesn't lie. So if you want to know what people prioritize, you look at their calendar, assuming that they put things in there and they live by their calendar. That will tell you a lot about what someone is spending their time on and their focus.
Mm-hmm.
I find that 80% thing hard, right? That 20% bothers me. I suppose that's probably a thing with all of your people. It's like, but that 20%, that's like the extra that makes it killer, really good, I have a hard time letting go of that. And because I say this to Kristen all the time, I think, well, I feel like I could have done that better, and, but it also might explain the very full calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and I'll tell you don't leave room for the innovation or the creativity of the other person that is not you, that has a different perspective, sees the world a different way, has a different insight that you wouldn't have. And so, you flip your mindset to, oh, it's 80% as good as I would do it, to they will get to this level of quality and then they'll add their own flavor that you can't fully predict or measure.
I think
so
that's
it's really
why you
important.
and Janelle are good at it, and that Kurt and I have issues.
No, don't give me extra credit. I mean, I like control just as much as the next person. I mean, we all want to be in control. But when you can learn to appreciate and trust your team and discover what their strengths are, you will see that they will come up with things that you would not have come up with. At least that's been true in my case. And that helps you relinquish some of that control.
Right. And Kristen, you bring up a great point when it comes to control. And I'm sure that most of your folks that are listening today are driven. They're the driven entrepreneurs, and you get excited about all the things that you're doing. And you buy into the success lie, which is my book where I talked about this epidemic that entrepreneurs fall into, where just naturally, because we get excited about our work, we're passionate about what we're doing, we just keep taking on more and more and more and think that that's just the way our life needs to be. And we're running on this treadmill that can't stop. And we're control freaks naturally. So we want to control everything around us. And it really makes a difference when we stop and evaluate who we are, what we're best at. And we have to learn how, and you can learn how to relinquish that control and just stay in your lane. I like to say, just stay in your lane. What are those gifts that God has given you? And if you could do just one or two things in your business, what are those things? I would say, what are those things that only Janelle can do? I can't hire anybody else for this because this is my superpower. And that's what I say to entrepreneurs that I coach. Each one of you has a superpower. What is that? And you need to be spending most of your time in that superpower and delegate everything else.
Yeah, I do want to talk about this. I was intrigued by the title of your book, Success Lie. I know when we were talking, you've had some really cool people who I admire endorse the book, Stephen Covey and Tom Ziegler and Pat Lencioni.
You mean Ziglar?
No, it was Tom, right?
Tom, right. Tom.
Yes.
Zig's son. Zig's son.
Oh, okay. Here I was so happy to catch him. You see how excited I was to catch him.
Yes.
Oh, I got to eat crow.
No, I had this. I cheated because I read about it, a couple days ago in prep for this. But I felt I relate to it. What you're talking about, which is this phenomenon that I personally experience, where now I think maybe I think it's a great discussion of faith, but for me, this grabbing of things I wanted to achieve, because I have found in recent years that I was equating, success with some self-justification, that I was, despite the fact being a person of faith, knowing that I am justified not by my own works, but by the grace of God, that my identity is found in Christ, not in my achievements. I still was trying to compile a long list of stuff I was doing. And I'd go to an event and I'd meet a real estate guru, and he's in apartment complexes. I need apartment complexes, right? Because that's like the next level. And then I'd go, and the guy's in crypto. I was like, oh, I got to do that because that's super astute and really intelligent. And I've got to, I would go to a Tony Robbins event where we were, and I remember at one of the events, Tony got up and he talked about the average net worth of people in the room. And it was, I don't know, $15 million or something. It was a smaller Tony event. I wasn't worth $15 million. I got to get to $15 million. And at one point you wake up and you think, I've got 10 jobs. All of these things that I thought was going to make me feel good about myself are not making me feel good about myself. That as soon as you get to from making your first million to making your first 5 million, it doesn't feel any better, right? The 5 million, right? And I felt so what you're talking about, this accumulation of duties and things. I recognized at one point I was doing it because I was looking for something there that I couldn't find there. I'm looking for some existential proof that I am worth it. And there's, that's ultimately can't be found in making a little extra money and owning a 16-unit apartment complex that still remains empty a year and a half later. So,
yes.
Well, I mention it to people. I say, you need to eat your pie. And they're like, what? And I said, pride, identity, and ego. Just put it aside and get rid of it, which is really hard.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Oh, that's great. That needs to be book number 3.
Eat your pie.
Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. I've never heard that before, but it's 100% true and absolutely essential, because for me, it was sort of slowly just sucking the lifeblood out of attempting to be more successful is sucking the lifeblood out of our success, right?
Right.
Well, and it can happen gradually. You don't even realize it, and you do it in spurts. And so that's the trick, that can be played on you, because, we have so many goals tied to charitable giving, tied to impact. We've been doing that for many, many years. And so and again, we're 2 different people. So for me, it was different because we all want to feel successful, but I was extremely motivated because I knew what we were going to do when we got to these levels, and so that was very motivating to me. And I think for Kurt, different personality, and also as a man, there's just a different level of wanting to be that protector, provider, wanting to be that successful leader. And I know that was a big shift in realization when it occurred. And so, coaching has been really helpful. And then, of course, going back to the source of all truth, our Creator in the Bible also helps us to get centered and on what we need to focus on. And I know that's what you're doing through your new community. So that's really exciting that you'll be able to help other entrepreneurs do that very thing.
Yeah. So tell us about this. You've got this new impact entrepreneurial community. So talk to me a little bit about that.
You bet. Well, the reason that we put it together, and we ran entrepreneur groups for a number of years and then took a pause from it and decided and really felt called to relaunch it coming in January and to have it be a faith-based group with the core foundation of faith, family, and impact. And the reason that we wanted to do that is we're a part of a number of great entrepreneur groups. There's wonderful ones out there that we're a part of. But one of the elements that seems to be missing is the faith and the family component. And we know that those are our base values, and we want everything to come out of that. And as we began to talk to other entrepreneurs, they felt the same way. You want to have a really great business where you're impacting the world with your gifts and talents, but you also want to have a life. You want to have this full and abundant life that God has called us to. So you don't want to be buying into this success lie of having to do more and more and living on automatic. And like you guys talked about, not even realize that you're heading down this automatic path that may take you where you don't want to go. And all of a sudden you wake up 10, 20, even 30 years later and go, how did I get here? I'm not feeling satisfied. So what we're doing with this group that's unique is we're doing a change of place and pace to help our driven entrepreneurs slow down and really take stock of their life and help them ensure they're living a life true to their calling. So to do a check-in on that, are they really living the life that they're called to lead? And then with this holistic approach of helping people have successful businesses, helping them strategize and being with other leaders who've been there, done that can help them get where they want to go. But then this holistic approach to all of the 7 main life areas so that you're CEO of your health, your faith is strong, your relationships are strong to your family, your spouse, and you're doing great things in the community. So those are just an example of how we want to help leaders really take their leadership and life to the next level through this group.
Oh, I love that critical attention to those various areas. That's got to be so impactful. Graham, tell us, so how do you structure that then when you're meeting with people? Is it, you focus on one area at a time, or tell us a little bit more about the details of how you do that with people in this group?
Right. Well, one of the other key differentiators is that you go to these great events and it's this deluge of information. And then it's like, oh, fly, be free, figure it out. And, how do you implement that?
Yeah.
And so we will meet in person.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we want it to be full. So it's going to be in person quarterly. So January, and then, and so it'll be in Scottsdale and then also up in the Pacific Northwest. So we picking beautiful locations to separate yourself from your office and your work. And we'll dig deep. So the first one's a life reset. And we want people to look where they were, where they are, where they want to go, and just really dig deep on those 7 main life areas. And what is it that you need to work on? And, the wheel isn't ever going to be perfect, and it's going to be bumpy along the way, but let's work on making it, a better ride. And so the first one, we'll do that. And then, but what differentiates us is that myself, Janelle, one of our other coaches, somebody else in the group, we're going to hold each other accountable. So if you say, you know what, I'm going on date night every Saturday with my wife, or once a month, I'm going to have a time with one-on-one with my kids, then we're going to check in, text, phone, Zoom, whatever it is. We're going to make sure that in between that 90 days, there's somebody checking in on you, because we've been there. We've gone there. Oh, what great intentions. Oh, we're going to go on date night. And then it's, oh, well, it's Saturday. We've worked really hard all week. Forget it. And then, you do that over and over and over, and it accumulates, and it's just easier not to do it. So we're going to, the one key component is just filling you up for 2 full days so you can pour into others, and then hold you accountable over the next 90 days.
We expect that you're going to go back from our retreat, which is a combination of business mastery and a wellness retreat wrapped into one, that instead of going out of there like you've had a fire hose and you're even feeling overwhelmed leaving the meeting, you're going to go back refreshed and reset and ready to go back to your life with clarity and an action plan. So we're excited about that format being really helpful for people. And then we found that about 90 days is how long people can really stay on a plan. So we're going to bring everybody back at the beginning of each quarter, again, for another structured think time with other been there, done that entrepreneurs who are going to really help challenge and support them to be the best version of themselves.
Oh, I was going to say one differentiator is been there, done that. Janelle reminded me, been there, run that. Everybody in the group's been there and run that, but as coaches, we've been there, run that instead of, some others that haven't. So it's really just surround everybody there has been there and run that. And so you're getting just a wealth of experience.
Yeah, I like this wellness combination that you're talking about, because to your point, I've gone to various events. We've been giant Tony Robbins fans for years. We'll go to a Tony event and you usually go home and you want to sleep for 3 days. and you do have a lot of to-dos. You've been given a lot of information. And there's a ton of value. That's Tony's thing, right? Is
of course
create a lot of value. And so you leave with a ton of it. And then you're kind of exhausted from it. And then you're trying to pick, maybe you learn 15 or 20 things at this event. The business mastery of Tony's, he might have that many speakers. You're trying to pick the 2 or 3 things that, you can actually focus on. And Tony helps with that. They have a little thing at the end of every session. But more than once I said, you know what we should have, Tony, you should just sponsor a quiet retreat, because that's what I really need as an entrepreneur sometimes. It's just not running around. Let's not jump out of any airplanes.
Right.
Let's not do anything crazy. I need to like sleep in, and I need to have some time to think. So I think that's really valuable, because that's one of the biggest things missing in our lives as entrepreneurs is just a couple of days to think. We've started the practice of doing it on our own once a quarter. We'll either go away for a weekend, although recently we've taken to doing staycations. We send the kids away and we stay home.
There you go.
And because we find that it gives us a chance. It's the least drama. We didn't have to plan a trip anywhere. There's no hotels. There's no packing. There's no stressing to catch a plane. And that's such a valuable thing. I do think that's a good distinction for how you're formatting this, because we just don't get that.
Well, not just entrepreneurs, but culture in general. We're struggling with slowing down and taking time to think and sit with our thoughts. I mean, that could go down a tangent, but how we are with our phones and devices, and whenever there's a downtime, we're looking at the phone or we're scrolling and getting those dopamine hits. And so that time to just unplug a little bit intentionally, I think is so powerful. So I think you're definitely onto something with this format. Sounds powerful. And the community aspect and the accountability that you can provide. Not only do we all need that, but that really allows you to grow in relationship with those other people, I would imagine, which is only going to strengthen the impact you can have when you're sharing and helping each other at such a close level.
Oh, thank you. And we really wanted to create that space where there can be deeper conversations and deep connections, because agreed, it's just hard to find that when you're going to these conferences where you're meeting so many people and you have these quick intros and superficial conversations. And this group will be like-minded leaders coming together from all different walks of life, from all different industries, that will be able to come together and have deep conversations, make deep connections, which we know will be lifelong ones. And that's what happened in our first groups that we put together. And this will be a highly curated group that we are not just going to let anybody in. We are going to really make sure that there's someone who wants to be a contributor, that wants to bring value to the group, that really is someone who wants to learn and grow and take ownership of their life, and will be willing to commit to taking action to be a better person, a better version of themselves today than they were a year ago. And we're going to challenge everybody who comes in January to really look at that. How do you want to see yourself on December 31 that's different than today? And then how are we going to make that plan to make that happen? And then support each other in doing that.
Yeah. And so I know that you're in the process of, you know that when you're going to launch this. So maybe my question is premature, but do you have the infrastructure set up if people are interested in this and they want to take action or they want to apply? What's that process look like, that curation process, or is it too soon?
No, it's perfect timing. You can certainly ask about that. And we thank you for doing that. We are just now starting as of November 1st. We're opening up our applications. And we're going to be bringing in a group of 30 leaders together. So these will be entrepreneurs and visionary leaders. So if someone's not an entrepreneur, but they're a leader out in the work world and they have this ministry, even a leader of a nonprofit who is creating an impact, who wants to live a life of impact, they're also someone who would be eligible for this group. So if you'd like to apply, we can later provide information on a website to go to be able to check out the information and then apply and have a call with either Graham or myself to learn more.
Wonderful.
Yeah. We'll put something in our show notes for anybody listening as well that they can find.
Yeah, we'll get you the landing page.
It's awesome. I was also really intrigued when I was learning a little bit about you all, that Graham, you were trained by Zig Ziglar. You took, and then you were doing a public speaking for him. Talk a little bit about how all that went down.
Yeah. So I was a banker, and I'm a reformed banker, as you had mentioned. And so grateful for that. Many of us, let's say over the age of 45, know who Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest orators of any time, and a faith-based leader. And I followed him. I went to his conferences, and then Janelle was telling me that I needed to find something else. She'd been praying for something else, and I audibly laughed on a Friday morning because I received an email from Zig, and he was trying to create his legacy because he was at the end of his life. And she said, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, Zig's starting a coaching program, and I got the invite to apply. And she said, well, you need to apply. You're going to get it. I was like, whatever.
Oh, that's good. That's good reinforcement.
And I said, but it's due at 5. And well, you better get busy.
Yeah.
So I filled out the application. About 2,500 of us applied, and I was selected in the first group of 20. And,
Wow.
unfortunately, it passed right before the actual group started. But, the whole entire family, Tom, Cindy, Julie, and Lori, his assistant, and the redhead, Jean was his wife. We're all there, and just really, it was a great opportunity to be part of that family. And it's just a warm, kind family, and an honor to be part of that. So,
yeah, I would imagine the opportunity to take those teachings, to take everything that he had showcased and taught for so many years. That's got to be pretty humbling experience to think about. Okay, I'm going to help carry on this man's legacy and pay it forward, and try to help other people be more exposed to this brilliant wisdom that he shared with so many.
Right. Yeah. And we had an opportunity to just be in his office and be around the family and do all of these things. And he has this wall of honor and the people that he talked to. And then he had a room full of books that he had just, Tom had just encouraged him to sign and sign and sign and sign. And we were able to each get a personalized book from Zig's personal library, which was really special as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
Really special. So was that really after, so you did the Zig Ziglar kind of group for a little while. And was it after that the two of you decided to form your legacy leaders together?
So we were starting to just go towards that direction. As Janelle said, she liked building the team and not necessarily worried about a dirty toilet at 2 a.m. And so, and I was, getting out of the banking world. I loved banking back when you could be a banker, and, the constraints that are there now, you're just not even allowed to do your job in many cases. And so I was frustrated. And so we started working independently, just part-time here and there, helping business leaders. And then it was 2014. So 10 years ago, we started Legacy Leader part-time and continued on doing the other things, and then went in full-time a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we get to do Turnabout because we do all these interviews together, and people always ask us, what's it like working with your spouse? And what do you enjoy about it?
The same thing.
Yeah. So now I feel like we get to ask you. So, so what have you really enjoyed about that, working together as a couple?
We like each other. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
That helps. You've got to be able to spend time together and enjoy that. And we really started out as friends and became really great friends before we started dating. And that's just continued. And now it'll be 15 years next year. We'll have been married, and we just are closer today than we've ever been. And working together has been part of it. We're sharing, we get to know firsthand rather than your spouse coming home from work and, honey, how was your day? And hearing about it. We're living it together, the ups and the downs. And we enjoy that.
Yeah, same's true for us. When people ask me that question, of course, we've been doing things together really since the day we met. And so I almost feel like I can't give a good answer because I don't know any other way. I didn't, we weren't doing things separately really for any amount of time before working together. And so it's just so ingrained into how we operate, communicate as a couple, how we set our goals, and everything is so interrelated, which is beautiful and quite a blessing. But it also means for someone who hasn't, and then they're looking to do that, I cannot give that life experience of the before and after, just the lessons that we've learned along the way.
I think it's funny, your example about asking your spouse about their day at work, because I often use that as the one thing that I try to, I have to like purposefully do as somebody who works with their spouse is we know what each other did at work. And so there's a little mystery if you don't work together and you're coming home. So tell me what your coworkers did today. I want to hear about the drama. And there's mystery. But her coworkers are my coworkers, right? So there's no mystery, and it's all work talk, right? So it's not.
That's the real thing.
And so we, when we sit down and we say, okay, what happened today? That it's work talk. It's not, oh, you'll never believe what, John Doe did today, And so that's one of the things I recognized when we got into it for a while as a different, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the pointers and that we had to learn to do is to learn how to shut off that work talk. So we created an 8 p.m. rule now that we are not talking about business. If we want to talk over the dinner table with something that we're excited about or working on, and if it's just us and our kids aren't there, then we'll do that. But we have cut it off that, okay, at 8 o'clock, we are no longer going to be doing any business work. We're not going to have work conversations. We'll save that for the morning. And we're going to focus on each other. And we're going to talk about the kids or what we want to do this weekend. And we also really lighten up those conversations. 8 o'clock and beyond is not the time, if you want to get a good night's sleep, it's not the time to decide to discuss something that you're in disagreement on or to discuss a difficult subject, to talk politics, whatever it may be. we shut that off at 8 and we have our wind down, just like you do with an exercise routine. You wind down before bed with calming activities, with things that you enjoy doing that will help prepare you for a good night's sleep. That's made a big difference for us.
So the follow-up question I have to ask is, which one of you is the more of the morning person versus the night owl? Or are you guys more similar in that way?
We go to bed most of the time at the same time each night. We've just done that. My parents always did that, and Graham will stay up later sometimes than me, or I'll stay up later than him. I'll be reading or something, but we tend to go to bed at the same time. And you will get up earlier than I do. You like to get up and work out in the morning, and I like working out in the afternoon. So you'll get up early, and I'll do my morning routine while you're off doing that.
Well, it was a bit of a trick question because I thought, well, if the 8 o'clock rule, then maybe one of you is more of the night owl and comes alive and your brain really operates at a high level, but maybe that's not the case.
What she's implying.
For me,
Kristen's brain comes alive at 8 o'clock.
Oh, so wow.
If Kurt's early to bed and I'm, I can do my best work sometimes at, 10, 11 o'clock. And so I wondered, I thought, is that a big sacrifice that one of you had to make to cut it off at 8 o'clock? Or was that an easy rule for the two of you?
It was probably easier for me because I saw how much it would wind her up, and it wasn't really healthy for me.
Self-preservation. I like the honesty there.
I'm like you, Kristen. I can get revved up, and if I start going after dinner again, I could be up. I'm then it's tomorrow morning, and I'm. Yeah, it would be very hard for me to sleep. I get too excited, and then I can't wind down. So it's from my own personal self-discipline, because I would work 24/7, and we help people prevent burnout. And that's how I burned out, is I just never was able to shut it off. And for me, it made a huge difference when we created these disciplines to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what's powerful about that, again, for anybody listening, is it's one thing to kind of recognize maybe some things that are tripping you up or creating additional stress or a lack of, clarity and an ability to executive function at a high level, which for anyone running a business, we need that executive functioning. But it's another thing to then take those steps and say, okay, here's the boundary I'm going to set, and I'm going to be disciplined because that's really what's in the best interest. So I know I was making light of it, but kudos to both of you, because those are the things that make a real difference and help you to improve, not just to relive the same issues over and over and over again.
It's not easy, for sure. It's a continued reminder and discipline.
And I think for the people out there too, is our 8 o'clock rule is great for us. But when we had kids, it was a 6 o'clock rule because they did not really appreciate us talking about work at the dinner table. And we realized that that wasn't healthy either. And so we would talk for a couple of minutes, but then we had to cut it off because of the family. And so it just really depends on what phase of life you're at.
Right.
Yes. Truer words were never spoken. We've been learning that ourselves because we only have a 2 and 4 year old. And, we've been running our business for years and really got into a habit of how that works and not really having to shut it off, or not to the same extent, obviously, when you have children, or thinking, oh, I'll catch up on the weekend. I didn't get to this, but I can catch up half a day Saturday and I'll be great. Nope. There's none of that. Not with little toddlers running around. And so what a beautiful blessing, though, to have that pattern interrupt and to have that reason to turn things off, to slow down, to be present, to just enjoy the blessings of life and family. And so
no question.
It's so important. Yeah, it's been such a gift.
Yeah. Well, and I know I want to make sure we talk about it because you maybe it's not out in the world yet, but you've got a new book coming.
I do. I'm excited. That's in the hands of the publisher right now, working on it. It's going to be coming out in June 2025. And it's called Your Way Back to Happy: How to Take the Pain of Your Past and Turn It into a Future of Freedom, Purpose, and Peace. So I'm excited about that. It's about my own journey with unresolved trauma. And I learned that many entrepreneurs have stuff from their past that are affecting their leadership. They may not even realize it's affecting their leadership in their life. And we carry those things, those difficult challenges of our life. And sometimes, especially as leaders, we stuff that all down because, for me, I had to put my energy into making sure my kids were okay. And I wasn't spending time to make sure I was okay. And those were things that made a big difference when I shined the light on that and thought, I need to really take a look at what's happened in my own life and what I haven't dealt with and turn it around. So it's my story of how to help others heal the pain of their past, turn it into their purpose for the future.
Well, I'll be putting a bookmark down so that I can be one of the first to get a copy. Sounds like there's a lot of learnings to share. And by the way, so many people I know will be able to relate to that struggle. And so what an amazing thing to tackle and to share with others.
Would you say it's more of a book written for entrepreneurs who are dealing with this, or just anyone who is working through unresolved trauma?
It can be for anyone who's working through unresolved trauma. It's written to the entrepreneur and leader because it's speaking from my own experience. But we've helped so many others in all different areas of life who just really are stuck and weighted down by the burden of their past and how to turn it around. So it is for the leader or anyone who really wants to take that pain of the past and turn it into a better future.
Well, it sounds such an interesting topic. Was there something that really inspired you to begin to write this book? I know you mentioned your own trauma. Was there a moment when you said, I'm recognizing for the first time just how much this affects my leadership?
Yes, for sure. It came about just in the last 5 years where I was, again, on a flight. I was coming home on a flight on my own. I visited a friend for the weekend. We'd had a great time. And I was coming home from the little flight from Seattle to Bellingham, Washington, where we live. And it was extremely turbulent. And it got so bad that the flight attendant I happened to have somebody who was a flight attendant that happened to be seated next to me, which was really a God thing. She's turning the fan over my head and she was trying to calm me down, and other people on the plane were getting really nervous. And I thought, you know what, this is a short flight. We're going to get on the ground. It's going to be fine. And it got so bad that the pilot finally came on and said, we've got to turn this plane around and take you back to Seattle because it's not safe to land. After a few attempts, we got to the Seattle airport and I walked off the plane and was looking around, and everybody seemed maybe a little shaken, but everybody was okay. I completely fell apart in the middle of the Seattle airport. I I just uncontrollably crying, shaking. I did not know what was wrong with me. I couldn't get a hold of myself, and realized by getting actually a brain scan that I showed symptoms of PTSD. And when I went to discover what was going on, and that was a complete shock to me. I had been through a huge challenge in my younger years where I had lived with my first husband was an addict. I came home from work one day to find my two youngest daughters, age 4 and 7, home alone by themselves, and he'd abandoned the family. And this was my trauma. I mean, that was the moment that took my legs out from underneath me and really set me back, but I did not let it keep me down. And I got up and put one foot in front of the other, and I kept going, just trusting everything was going to work out. And it did. And I helped my girls. But I think as women, especially, and as leaders, we're used to taking care of everything and everyone. And we really don't look at when our own needs are not being met. And I thought that I was fine. And I didn't realize until that day when I fell apart at the airport that I actually wasn't fine, that I had had a trauma in my life that had impacted me so deeply, but I didn't realize it. And it was because I was finally in a very safe relationship with Graham that my body was able to say, you know what? This is time for you to let this go now, because you don't have to be the rock. You don't have to be the person that's holding it all together. You've got somebody else in your life. You've got a God that adores you, and it's time to now let this go. And so I went through the process of learning how to do that. And that is the story of this book. And it has changed my life. It has changed my leadership, and it's created this deeper purpose. And now I want to help leaders who haven't dealt with something maybe in their life that they've tucked away that's affected their leadership in good ways and bad. It creates grit, it creates tenacity and perseverance, but it also does other things that are unhealthy. So that's what this book is for. And I'm so excited to get it into the hands of people to really help them shape their leadership to be even better leaders and living from a true, authentic place of leadership that God's called them to.
Well, and giving people that hope, because that hope does exist. And we can hear that oftentimes most from people that we can relate to, who we feel like have been through similar struggles. So again, not knowing the full context of your story, but those types of, that type of vulnerability, the ability to share those things, and also how you manage to get through it, I can just tell already is going to serve so many people. Amazing thing to tackle. Like you didn't have enough going on,
No.
that you needed to tackle something else. I mean, here we just recently launched a very short little business book, but I know how much time that took, and wasn't nearly as emotional or, have the kind of stakes to impact people in the same way that what you just described.
Right. Well, I think Mark Batterson says, I didn't necessarily want to write. I was called to write, and it's obedience that brings me to my laptop. And I felt with both books, Your Success Lie and Your Way Back to Happy, that I continue to get nudges and confirmations that this is the gift he's given me and that I need to put into the world, and how many more people I can touch through the written word than just being able to touch in person,
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely glad you wrote it. And I'm excited to read it like Kristen. And I do think there's something about plane flights and entrepreneurs. I myself have had a few pretty radical plane flight kind of revelations, or I've had my own series of sort of plane flight breakdowns. I don't know if it's just on the plane, you're sort of forced to turn off the phone and you have to be kind of focused and alone. And so maybe that'll, in addition to Graham's book number 3 that we identified earlier, book number 4 will be How to Change Your Life on a Single Plane Flight in an hour and a half or less.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah. I was thinking you release control. You have no control when you're on the plane. You don't have your phone. Well, now you kind of sort of do, but you really just have that space and that time, and your thoughts start to wander, and anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to end. We like to do a lightning round. We find that we get really fun answers here. I think you might, Janelle, have answered this first question already, but I like to give people, 60 or 90 seconds to talk about the legacy they'd like to leave behind from their work. And so I'd like to start with that. One or both of you want to answer that?
Well, I'll start. I think that together, we really want our legacy to be that as a faith-based community and believers and followers, that we can positively make an impact on the world. And we can make that with family and with friends and with all of those that we surround ourselves with. And we can do it with joy and happiness and kindness and love. And so I think that would be a great legacy.
Absolutely. I also like to ask people for 90 seconds on anything that's just kind of interesting you recently. It just can't be about your impact group or maybe your books. Maybe it's a hobby, sports team you want to give a shout out for. What's something that's captured your attention recently?
For me, I'm not going to even try to answer for Janelle.
Yes.
Not, somebody that even Elon Musk captured my attention about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
I was quite ambivalent, quite frankly. I've now read 2 books, and then, obviously everything that he's done over this whole election process. But he has really been a fascinating person to learn about. So that would be mine.
I definitely relate to that. Just knowing a very little bit about him. And then again, the increased media coverage, but what a fascinating person, who's had just a tremendous impact. And it's just, I tell you, when you see what one person's capacity is, obviously he's clearly learned to delegate that 80%, and use an amazing
not really
team.
Very well. He chooses not to sleep.
Well, I know there's that too, which we can't all keep up with, but the teams that he has and the, what he's been able to accomplish for a long time. But I know you're not alone, Graham, and people's kind of new fascination or just wanting to understand as they see more about him. And I know for me, whatever criticisms people may have, I do feel like his, purchase of Twitter and conversion to X has just been a huge difference in terms of just saving free speech and having one platform that isn't censoring to the way that others are. And just that alone, as if his other accomplishments weren't, incredibly powerful. That one I know has made a big impact on so many people. What about you, Janelle?
I would say for me is we recently became grandparents again, and my middle daughter had married and had a baby. And I think seeing life through the lens of your adult children and really seeing what you've done to raise them to be strong, independent people that are giving back to the world. And she is studying now. She's going for her doctorate in psychology because of the challenges she had as a child. She now wants to give back to others. And at the same time, in a relatively new marriage and a new baby, and just seeing her navigate that adult life and being able to take your child that you were always the parent of and raising, and now having this different relationship as friends and being able to talk about what it's like to be a mother and how to be a good spouse, all of these other things that are so important to be having conversations about that you don't think about. And so I've just been delighted to watch her just be a phenomenal mom and a new wife learning. And it's just been amazing. I think kids and grandkids are the best. I mean, kids are awesome and grandkids are even better.
That's what our friends tell us. So congratulations. That sounds amazing. And
Thank
we
you.
hear that so much, that just the prism and seeing their life, just seeing them in a new light when they get to now, again, take that next journey and see how they are taking everything that you would have tried to teach them or trying to rebound and navigate their own way, right? Make their own decisions about parenting. And that's our motivation to live a long and healthy life, because we're going to have to live a long time to see that with our two youngsters.
Absolutely. People always ask me, what are your kids going to be like when they're adults? I said, well, just look at them when they're 2 or 3 and they're just like that, only they're in bigger bodies.
Oh, great.
I was going to say, good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, Graham and Janelle, thank you so much for joining. To get in touch with them, they can hit you. They can, you guys, anyone listening, if you want to get in touch with them, could go to legacy-leader.com. And again, just thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, what a treat. A lot of success to you. We'll be excited to check back and see how things go in January with your new group. And then again, Janelle, in June with your new book. So amazing. Keep striving, keep working to make an impact. It's really inspiring. And we just appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much, Kristen and Kurt. Such a privilege to be with you.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep making your impact.
Well, we will.
Yeah, there you go.
And for those of you tuning in, we appreciate your time as well. We invite you to join the Liberty Partnership community at libertyspenders.com. And additionally, you can learn more about this lucrative audience, Liberty Spenders, with our new book, which you can get at libertyspenders.com/free. Until next time.